can only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine.
As early as the year 1951, the National Missions Committee of Mercersburg Synod was considering the advisability of establishing a new church north of York. In 1953, interest was expressed for such an undertaking. In the spring of 1955, Mercersburg Synod made a request to the York County Council of Churches for an allocation in the Clear Springs area. A religious survey was conducted in the Clear Springs and Woodland View developments in the summer of 1955. This survey revealed a definite need and an expressed interest on the part of the residents of the community for a church to serve their area. In December of 1955, the Council of Churches authorized the allocation to the Evangelical and Reformed Church, and thereupon an initial 2 acres of land was presented to the Board of National Missions of the Evangelical and Reformed Church for the new church. This gift was made on December 30th, 1955 by Mr. and Mrs. George Hay Kane, Jr., who presented the land in memory of Mrs. Kane's father, the late John Lowry Ruth. The first service of worship was held on Worldwide Communion Sunday, October 7th, 1956 at the Emmetsville Fire Hall, with 65 adults and 19 children being in attendance.
It was a good atmosphere. Everybody was new to the church, so there were not anyone that did not feel welcome at any time.
It was very interesting. The first church service, we took the offering was taken in Charlie Heinley's hat.
The first church school session was held on November 4th, 1956. With weekly worship and church school sessions, the new families of the community grew in togetherness until it became evident by December that this informal body was ready to organize as a congregation. On Sunday, March 31st, 1957, the congregation of the Hayshire Church was officially constituted with 105 members.
Well, my next door neighbors, John and Nancy Potts, belonged here, and so they talked us into coming up to the fire hall.
Yeah.
And so we liked it.
The Hayshire Church was officially received into Mercersburg Synod on April 28, 1957, at which time Reverend Roland Rayner was installed as the first minister of the Hayshire Church.
My husband Bill was injured in an automobile accident. As a result of this accident, he became a quadriplegic. For many months he was strapped to a striker frame and turned like a pancake to keep the organs of his body in working order. Reverend Roland Rayner would visit often. If Bill was facing the floor, Reverend Rayner would lay down on the floor and scoot under the striker frame to talk to him.
Organizing minister caught me unexpected in the backyard working. We had a short chat and told us all about what was going to happen in the near future, was organize and develop a new church for this area.
In June of 1957, the Church Council authorized 10 study groups to begin the work of exploring the building needs of the congregation. Their recommendations were later turned over to the building committee. At the January 1958 congregational meeting, the building committee was appointed with Mr. Marvin Cutright as chairman. In April, the architect was selected, being Mr. Donald A. Gilbert from the firm of Associated Architects and Engineers, York, PA. On May 25, 1958, a successful building fund project was conducted under the direction of Mr. Roy C. Tim. On August 6, 1958, the building committee presented a model of the master plan to the congregation, and on September 7th, the first unit was officially approved. By December of 1958, the congregation numbered 165 members with a church school enrollment surpassing 200. The building contract was awarded on February 22, 1959 to the firm of Carson Lineball Incorporated. With an additional half-acre of land added, the ground was dedicated with appropriate groundbreaking ceremonies on March 15, 1959. Work began on the building on March 20th, 1959. Nearly $40,000 was pledged for a 3-year period. The cost of the project was $100,000, of which $15,000 was for furnishings. The congregation had much hope for their future. The building would provide opportunities for worship, education, fellowship, and service to the community.
It was the beginning of a new life.
The new church was complete by November 1959. Hayshire held 3 dedication services to celebrate the realization of their dream, the building of the church.
Well, I was always very busy, but it was a learning experience as well, because I guess most of us never knew how a church operated or what it took to get it started and so on. And so from that point of view, it was a great education as well as a spiritual adventure as well.
Reverend Rayner served the congregation with much enthusiasm and vigor until he accepted a call to begin another congregation in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania in 1962. On February 15, 1963, the congregation called the Reverend William Shambaugh as their second pastor. Bill and his wife Dee had 3 small children, Cheryl, Richard, and Tom. They moved into a new parsonage on Skyview Drive. Reverend Shambaugh was very active in community affairs while serving as the pastor of the church. He was an avid reader and served on the board of directors of the York County Library System. He enjoyed writing, and in 1981, Doubleday published his first book, Cameron, a Western novel. He was an excellent preacher, and worship life of the congregation took on great importance.
Reverend Shambaugh came to Hayshire Church in 1963, the same year that I was born. And he baptized me, and it was very special when many years later he baptized both of our children, Kyle and Leah. Reverend Shambaugh had been the only pastor I had known for over 30 years, and he will always be very important to my family.
Hi, I'm Wendy Parson, and I've been a member of the church since I've been 6 months old. And actually I grew up right behind the church where my parents still live. And I think my most lasting memory of the church was as a child. There was nothing between my parents' house except the field and then the church property. And one of my favorite things that we used to do is to come over to the church and lay underneath the cross and look up in the air. And it looked like the whole world revolved around the cross at that time. And I think that's pretty cool because most of my life has revolved around the church. So the cross has always been something that you could see in the neighborhood, and it was very significant to me.
Well, years ago, we had a very, very, very active adult Sunday school class called the Haybee Sunday School class. We had Halloween parties, we had picnics, we had softball games, we had pool parties. Everybody was young, everybody had multi-children.
But we left before they even broke ground, and we were away 3 years. So when we came back to a newly finished church, which was what is now the Fellowship Hall. And it was just exciting for us to come back. We were coming back home.
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby. If you need me, call me.
In the 70s, with Reverend Shambaugh as the pastor, Hayshire continued to provide its members with worship, service opportunities, and fellowship. A surprise dinner was held on March 4th, 1973 to honor Reverend Shambaugh in recognition of his 10 years of service to the church. Almost 250 persons attended. The Hayshire players entertained everyone with a takeoff of the Charlie Brown cartoon called Billy Shambaugh and His Friends. The evening was a big success and a complete surprise, and one that is still remembered by many members. The members of Hayshire Church loved the annual church. Many of the picnics were held at Camp Canadian. The day was always filled with great food, activities, and a big volleyball game. At the end of the picnic, worship was held at the outdoor chapel.
flesh and light. I'll stop the world and melt with you. You've seen the difference and it's getting better all the time.
In the 80s, Hayshire church members formed several sports teams. The athletes participated in softball, golf, basketball, and bowling. A big milestone for the church was when the congregation celebrated the debt burning of the original mortgage in 1984. A 25th anniversary celebration of Hayshire Church was held at the Emmetsville Fire Hall in 1984. Roland Rayner and charter member John Potts were present for this celebration. The spring of 1988 marked Reverend Shamball's 25th anniversary with Hayshire Church. In honor of his service, a luncheon was held at the Sheraton Inn. A program called This Is Your Life was planned for Reverend Shamball. Darrell Just, a member of the congregation who was director of music, was ordained into the Christian ministry, thus having the distinction of the first person of the congregation to be ordained into the ministry. In 1994, Reverend Shamball retired after a 31-year pastorate. The congregation moved through an interim process to prepare them to call a new pastor under the leadership of the Reverend Ann Graves. On October 8, 1995, Reverend Phyllis Baum preached a trial sermon to the congregation of Hayshire United Church of Christ. The members voted overwhelmingly to call her as the third pastor.
Okay, I think one of the things that represents Hayshire's openness and willingness to change was their willingness to accept a woman as a pastor. When I came in 1995, of course, there was a trial sermon where the congregation would vote, and as I said, there was a big attendance that day, so there seemed to be a high level of interest in this next stage in the church's life.
The day that Phyllis did her trial sermon here, I personally hadn't been in church in a long time and had been called by Charlie Detter to come back for that day, and it was a sort of a special call for me for him to call and ask me to come back, because I was in the back of the fellowship hall, which was then the sanctuary, and after Phyllis had done her sermon and she left and the congregation voted for her almost unanimously, I was the first person that she saw as soon as she came out of the parlor, and she kind of looked at me and I gave her sort of an affirming look, and she knew that she had done well and that the congregation had accepted her, and just sort of an affirmation for me to come back to the church, and that was 11 years ago, and I haven't left since. So
I accepted the call here feeling very much that what I had to offer was kind of what Hayshire needed at that point in time.
Reverend Baum had served as a lay consultant for Christian education, stewardship, and evangelism on the Penn Central Conference staff and graduated from Lancaster Seminary in May 1995. New life emerged at Hayshire. Cottage meetings were held in homes to share dreams for the future of Hayshire Church. A women's group was formed and the Hartman Center became a favorite place for retreats. Many members participated in the Come Follow Me retreats at the church. The dining venture began and food and fellowship were shared in the homes of members. The Young at Heart continued and seniors enjoy time spent together. On October 6, 1996, the members of Hayshire United Church of Christ celebrated the 40th anniversary of the first worship service. A dinner was held in the Emmetsville Fire Hall and memories were shared. Harry Firestone was a leader in the church. He also served the church faithfully as custodian for 35 years. A clavinova was purchased in 1997, and the music program was under the capable leadership of Mark and Lauren Freeman. A few talented church members entertained an audience at the Mardi Gras talent show. In 1998, the congregation adopted a mission statement to guide their decisions in ministry. In the summer of 1998, the church council appointed a planning committee to address the future ministry and needs of the congregation. An old dream was revived. The original building project called for a 3-phase building program that included the addition of a sanctuary. In October of 1999, the congregation voted to hire Mr. James Crum as the architect. In the fall of 2000, the congregation began a capital campaign. The theme of the campaign was Fulfilling the Dream, Keeping Faith with the Past, and Building Hope for the Future. The campaign concluded with pledges of $635,000. In June of 2001, the congregation voted to hire Wagman Construction as the general contractor. Groundbreaking was held on July 21, 2002. With the successful conclusion of this project, Hayshire Church has fulfilled the dream of her charter members who plan to build a sanctuary.
And of course, one of the most exciting things for us is when we built a new sanctuary, because that was the dream of the first building committee. And I think we are so proud of Reverend Baum because she certainly spearheaded the drive for the sanctuary.
The building project represents their willingness to take on something new by having somebody keep saying, we can do this if you want to.
I like the openness of it. I like the lighting and the arrangement of pews and the choir off to the side and all of that. And yeah, it's well done.
April 6, 2003 will be forever remembered as Moving Day. On that day, the regular morning service started in the original sanctuary, as was the case for the previous 44 years. In the middle of the service, the entire congregation and worship sacraments were moved in procession to the new sanctuary. On June 8, 2003, a dedication for the new sanctuary was held. Hayshire has a variety of learning and fellowship opportunities to help the members and friends grow in their faith. Sunday school classes are held for adults and children. Mission work is a big part of Hayshire United Church of Christ. Our church's wider mission was put into the church budget. Members participate in the annual crop walk and serve meals twice a year in the Helping Hands ministry. Church members have also helped with open ministry of the York County Council of Churches. The congregation supported the capital campaign for Bethany Children's Home and is supporting the capital campaign for Lancaster Theological Seminary. Church World Service blankets have become a favorite project. Christmas gifts for our residents at Huffman Home are provided each year. The Youth Sunday School raises money to help families in need in the Central York School District. Hayshire's music ministry seeks to lift our hearts to God in worship and praise. The choir continues to provide music for weekly worship services under the leadership of interim music director Barb Crum. The movie group views contemporary films to explore and discuss issues of faith and life. Hayshire hosts Vacation Bible School each summer for members of our church and the community. The Word of God is told through songs, stories, art, and plays. Confirmation classes are held for youth in 7th and 8th grade and run for 2 years. During the confirmation time, the youth learn about their faith and service to the church and the community. The family Advent gathering brings members together to decorate the church and share a light meal and a worship service. The congregation organized a preschool program in 1960 to provide kindergarten experience. Over the years, the preschool program changed as the needs of family and education changed. The dream lives on, a dream to be a church of the community that serves others in the name of Jesus Christ. Our hope is that Hayshire United Church of Christ will continue to live by the vision to be a place where people can come together to worship, to grow in the faith, and to share in Christian fellowship.
This church is truly a family for me, and I'm so thankful that I've accepted that call.
It is absolutely a welcoming church.
I enjoy everything I am involved in at Hayshire United Church of Christ.
Well, as I said in my statement, continue the journey, and faith, I believe, is a journey. There are always new learnings, new understandings, new spirituality things, and we got to keep an open mind and remember we're all God's children, and we need to serve and help each other and understand each other.
Well, I think part of our 50th anniversary year, I'm hoping will be a way for us to begin to identify that, of where the people think it is important for us to go.
I think this has been my church home for 50 years, except for the years we were away, and it's just where it's just inspiring, and mostly it's because of the people.
I don't think anything would tear me away from here.
In 50 years, Hayshire United Church of Christ has had quite an impressive journey. The efforts, devotion, and faith of many talented people have formed and shaped the church as we know it today. One can only imagine what the next 50 years will bring to Hayshire.
I can only imagine.